Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Welcome back.
We were over here jamming to our intro music.
I know.
So me and Jess is still new to the podcast game.
Yes.
And we've heard our intro music, but not really. We picked it, but we didn't really hear it before we started. So you might see us grooving in the beginning.
Yeah, and it's just like so chill and soulful. And
before we get into the podcast today,
yes.
which our subject today is the first experience with
death.
With grief.
With death, grief.
With death, grief. Your first experience. I definitely want to start doing something where we do a check-in with each other.
Yes.
Because we are like...
go.
We're like, go.
On a hamster wheel.
Yeah. And we're both moms. We both have a full-time job.
Yes.
And we've put so much work into this.
Literally.
Just
seriously.
more than me. But
no,
she's really delayed the framework down here. But we should definitely be doing like a grief check-in, because some days are different than others.
Yeah.
And like I know for my mom, she's listening to this other audiobook, and it was talking about like not performing for other people.
Yes.
That when you're trying to deal with your grief, you perform.
Right, because you want to make sure that everything is like perfect.
Everybody else is comfortable.
Everybody's comfortable. You don't want your grief to weigh down other people and things in that nature, right?
Right.
And then you start to feel guilty because you're like, okay, am I like dumping all my grief on people?
Right.
Although like, sure, you have therapy, sure, you have, things that like different outlets, healthy outlets, which I can't wait to get into and interview people for that. I'm so looking forward to that because I can definitely use it. And I'm sure, Liz, you can use it.
I'm in the middle of it. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But yeah, let's do that check-in.
So how are you feeling today in terms of grief and your process? Because I know Shawnee passed a number of years ago, but your father died only 2 days before my sister died.
Yeah.
And that's still very fresh for me.
Yes.
So I think losing a parent is a different kind of grief than losing a sibling as well.
I have to say, with Sean, I just try to, again, like I'm at that, finding that deeper purpose. And this is definitely it. And it's just how crazy how things just come back full circle, right? And I feel like with where I am with my grief, even with my dad, I just feel, I feel okay. I have okay days. Mm-hmm. But I am the queen of compartmentalization. I am the queen of disassociating. I'm very good at that. That's why I do well with therapy as my profession because I'm able to kind of remove my emotions from that, and I'm very good at that.
Right.
But just checking in, I'm okay. I'm okay. Like, I'm okay seeing pictures. And, I do have to take some time out and start deleting some of the photos of my dad because, I had pictures I would send to my family in Ghana, and they would just see him basically like wither away. Mm-hmm. And I just I spoke to my husband about it, and he was like, but why are you going to save them? You don't want that to be the last memory of him. And I'm like, no doubt. But like, you can just see.
You want to see the more joyous, healthy parts.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So eventually I'll get to it, but I just feel like it's, these pictures, like when you take pictures, it's like when you go on Pinterest and you start pinning stuff and you're like, yeah, I'm definitely going to come get this recipe. No, you're not.
Right.
No, you're not. So when I say I have to clean out my phone, I have to clean out my phone, and I just haven't had time. Right. But what about you?
For me, I think I've always been crying at work going through all of this.
Sure.
But I think I would always find like a place to cry at work, like at a vacate unit or the bathroom or whatever. And today I just cried at my desk, and I was like, everybody went out to lunch. I'm like, I'm going to get this out here.
Yeah.
And, somebody from our maintenance team came in to talk to someone.
Not that woman, right?
No.
Sorry. And you'll understand that joke if you listen to the previous session.
Yeah.
The episode.
So I was like, my mom had talked about like stop masking, stop performing for everyone. And when somebody walks in and, hey, how are you doing? And someone's like, oh yeah, I'm just, and I was like, oh, sorry. I was just like having a little cry, you know, like, are you okay? And I was like, oh, and my screensaver is my sister and my brother-in-law.
Yeah.
So I was like, did I ever show you my, he's like, I seen a picture of your sister. I said, but did you see my brother-in-law? And he was like, no. And then I showed it to him, and he was like, oh, and he was like, are you talking to somebody? And it was like a very random conversation with somebody I never really talked to at work besides a hi, how are you? When is this apartment going to be ready so I can rent it out? You know, type of thing.
Right.
And I think it's just a testament to being honest about your grief, being honest about the type of day that you're having. Because you never know. He opened up that he lost both of his parents close together.
Wow.
And he's the youngest of 6 children.
Jeez, yeah.
And that he's had to like keep going. And then he had this reminder of like when his son was like 11 and was going through something, he got him someone to talk to.
Yeah.
And he was like, I think it's really important that you continue to like, he's like, are you in therapy? I was like, I am. He's like, I think it's really important that you keep doing that.
Yeah.
So that's like a check-in, but also like a little silver lining there in the grief of the day is that I was able to like connect with somebody through grief.
Right, but it's also normalizing it. And, you know, I was talking to my best friend about it, and she's like, this is amazing. Grief does not have to be morbid. You don't have to have it in such a way that, you know, it's taboo to talk about, you know, and we're all going to experience death, right?
We're all going.
It doesn't matter.
At
like,
some point.
Listen, we ain't gonna live forever. I mean, you got these videos. That's it.
I thought about that.
You're gonna have these.
I did think about that. I thought about like, you know, when we're not here anymore.
Yeah.
Like our videos can live forever for like our kids and things
just
like
that. People who need like laughter and to like resonate and things like that. So I think that like. I was thinking about like, oh my goodness, like we'll have these videos, but they're not like embarrassing videos, right? Like, you know, like, thank God we didn't have social media growing up. We would have been.
Could you imagine?
No, I can't. But yeah, like just to your point, just checking in, I think it's very important, and we should definitely do that more often. Just like a quick check-in. Like,
I think it's a reminder to our followers and viewers is like,
your emotions are real.
Yeah, like if you know someone who's experienced grief.
Yeah.
Even if it was a year or two ago.
Right. Well, even the last episode, like if you don't know what to say to someone, just say, hey, you know, I'm here for you. Like
I'm thinking of you all the
time.
I've gotten messages that are like, hey, you know, I think of you all the time. You know, I'm always praying for you.
Sure.
You know? And that's like amazing.
Yeah,
you
that's
don't
enough.
Have to see how I'm doing every day.
Just right. We don't need a novel.
You're in my prayers, and I'm always thinking about you and your family, and how are the kids doing, and how's your mom,
and that's
things like that.
Yeah. And I think that that's probably one of the most important parts, because, you know, while you're grieving, you know, after the person passes, those check-ins get far and far less.
I'm seeing it already 4 months in.
4 months in. Wait until a year.
Right.
Wait until a year that now everybody's life is back to normal.
Right.
And you know, I kind of said this to you too, like the people who put on the biggest shows, no avail. You know what I mean?
I haven't heard from my own dad in a month.
Oh, you see what I'm saying? Like he's back to whatever he's doing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, and it's like, well, and it's funny you say that.
And he was the biggest display of emotion, I'll say, at the wake.
Well, for my dad, I paid extra money to have it streamed online so that, you know, his sister can see it in Ghana, and a lot of family members who live in Italy. Like I have family all over this world.
Right.
And I paid extra that I don't have. You know, he didn't leave me money. He didn't leave me a will. He didn't leave me anything. That I paid all this money for, so they can just basically view, and I'm going to say it in such a untactful way, but you're just viewing a dead body. Like you're just viewing him laid out, like, and again,
you're seeing him for the last time, right?
Right. But it, like, you know, and I get like cultural things. We'll get into that episode. I'm so looking forward to that too. But with that being said, like, it's been 4 months. I haven't heard from my aunt. And sure, she's the oldest, but she was the one that I had to check in with a lot of things.
Right.
My brother, I messaged him for his birthday. His birthday is the same day as my dad's birthday. He just turned 50 this year.
Interesting.
And guess what? No avail.
Yeah.
No avail. So you just get to a point, like, then I had cousins. I only have like really the one cousin, his niece, that she's like, listen, when I lost my dad, nobody checked in with me. And she's like, I just want to make sure you're okay. Yeah. So she does check in, but
that's also why like learning how to manage your grief is so important, because sometimes in the beginning you do rely on other people checking in on you, bringing you food, doing things that when it kind of starts to
fade out,
you're like,
this is where your resilience comes in.
Like that Lauren London video that we watched today.
Yes.
It was like when everybody goes back to normal and you're in this black tunnel.
Yep. Yeah.
And you don't know what's in front of you, and you can't go back. You can't turn behind the tunnel. You have to keep going.
Yeah.
It's like you're in this.
Yeah. And it's deep. So and then now just to kind of get into, our first death experience, it was my grandfather, was my mom's dad. Like I said, she was, and I did want to point out, it was a mistake. He wasn't born in July. His lucky number was 711. Oh. So that's why I confused it. But he still died 11 days before my brother was born.
Okay.
And, I was 5 and I walked in and I'm like, Pop-Up, wake up. And I go, Mom, Pop-Up's cold. And my mom lost it, was like, how do you let a 5-year-old in here to witness this? Take my daughter out, get her out. No, mind you, I had like this pink star dress on with my aunt, which was my grandfather's sister, who was also my godmother. And it's the picture's so funny. She has like sweatpants on with little kitten heels. I'm like, can you be any more like Irish lady, like Irish Italian? Like, I love it. But like, and she's also passed on, but she came and took me outside, and my mom was like, you can't have a little kid around a dead body. Like, what's wrong with you people? So, my mom went off into a tizzy on that. And I had said to her, like, I'm just witnessing. And I was always very hyper aware. Right. And that also comes with trauma in life, that you like, you're hyper aware of what's going on.
You're like in survival mode. You're trying to like make sure you know what's going on around you.
Yeah. And you're watching, you're trying to see like what's happening. And I see my mom flipping out. And then I see like my aunts are crying. Everybody's crying. And I'm just like, but why is everybody crying?
Right.
Pop-Up's there. He's just sleeping.
Right.
So I feel like we're programmed, like at such a young age, programmed to grief, like programmed like, this is what you're supposed to do. You got to go and cry, or you got to be like devastated and throw yourself on the floor and just be uncontrollable and unconsolable, right? Like, and I was just like, oh, like, but he's just sleeping. And, but then like going through this grief and going through all of this, obviously, I definitely believe in past regression, and I do believe there's another side with energy and spirit. Like, I do wholeheartedly believe that. I've witnessed it, I've seen it with my own eyes. But I always said, oh no, but Pop-Up's just sleeping. I already knew that at 5 years old, that his body was just a vessel. But as you grow up, it's like, like undergrad, they talk about tabula rasa, meaning like we were born with a blank slate, and we're just relearning. Like, we have to learn everything all over again.
Right.
And it's like, I feel like this was like a programming in my mind. Like, you're supposed to cry, you're supposed to flip out.
Right.
But if you're doing okay, can you just do okay?
Right.
Can you be okay?
Right. Right. Yeah, totally.
So what was your first death experience?
Mine was very traumatic.
Oh my gosh.
I'm laughing. It's not funny at all. It's just like, when I was thinking about this, I was like, well, technically, my grandfather was like, he passed, but I was like, I don't remember. I remember him, and then I remember him not being around. And then as I got older, I was like, oh, I didn't realize that my grandfather died when I was 3 years old. It makes sense, because I don't really have any like pictures. Recollection of it. Yeah. Just but I'm the only one out of the 4 grandchildren that actually met him. So I remember like being in New York and feeding pigeons and stuff like that. But then I just remember, so he died 3 months before my sister was born.
Right. So, and you were saying that.
So I think that it was just, well, my mom had found him and she was pregnant with my sister. So I think it just went from like, let's keep everything calm. Yes. So Isabel can be calm. She's about to have a baby.
Because that's traumatic.
Right. And
so, that transfers to the baby.
And I don't think like it was talked about. I mean, I was pretty sharp. I could pay attention but like they say that you don't really remember at 3 years old. Yeah. You only remember what people tell you. Right. So, and then my sister was born, and I was like, oh my God, I have a friend. Like, this is great. And I didn't realize till a couple of years later, when you're in school and you're like, my grandma. Well, I have a grandma, but where's my grandpa? And I'm like, oh, that's right.
And that's when the questions come.
Yeah. So that, I wouldn't really consider that my first experience because I don't remember. Sure. When I was a junior in high school, do you remember the Westview fire?
I do remember that fire. And I thought about you immediately because I was like, you and Allie, you guys lived in the same building.
Right.
And I'm like, oh my God, like your parents, her parents. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
So the Westview fire was a huge fire. I grew up in a 20-story housing building, and I lived on the 5th floor, and on the 4th floor was an old lady, an older woman who lived with her mother, and she was on oxygen. And something happened with the oxygen tank.
Oh, wow.
And it exploded. And they could not leave the apartment. So they got on their balcony. And so I just remember me and my sister, like, I'm a junior in high school, so she's in 8th grade. And, you know, we hear the fire trucks coming, and, you know, Natalie being silly, she's like, wee,
yeah.
and I'm like, shut up, you know, whatever. And then she's like, oh my God, Cookie, they're coming here. And I'm like, you know, there's always something in these, like, housing buildings. Like, it's always ambulances, police officers, somebody got stuck in the broke-ass elevator.
Yes.
Got 4 elevators. One's working, like, you know. And then more and more came. And then I started to get really nervous.
Yeah.
And I come running out to the living room, and I'm looking for my mom. And my mom is, this is, like, burned in my mind.
Sure.
My mom is on the balcony. We're on the 5th floor. The fire's on the 4th floor. A couple apartments down. And she's just standing there crying, screaming the woman's name because they're on the balcony.
Yeah.
And they could not escape. And they passed.
Oh my God! So she basically watched them perish.
So the mother, the woman's mother died.
Wow.
She was very old.
Sure.
And then they tried hooking ladders on from balcony to balcony, and
impossible.
Unfortunately, she just kind of rushed.
Right.
And she fell.
Oh my gosh.
So she passed that way, and then her mother. And so I'm like losing. So, well, before that happened,
sure.
When I saw them there and I saw the flames coming out of the balcony,
right.
I was like, we have to go.
Get out.
I know nothing about fire safety.
No.
I'm a junior in high school.
We learned it in 5th grade.
Exactly. And I was just like,
Like, it was right along when we learned about our periods. Remember when the nurse brought us downstairs?
Like, stop, drop, and roll. Here's how to use a tampon. And you're like, great. I'm so unprepared for this life, right? Like, this is like... And I remember I was like, Mom, we have to go. We have to go. Yeah. And she was just like frozen.
She was
I
frozen.
remember grabbing her by the arm, pulling my sister, going out into the hallway. And I just remember opening the exit door.
Yeah.
And I just... we're completely engulfed in black smoke.
Wow.
And I just felt this hand behind me pull me back, and I fell, and it was my mom. Because I was missed. I'm leading us out of here. There's no way out.
You gotta crawl, girl.
So I went back on the balcony, and I yelled to the firefighters, like, what do I do? He's like, you need to get everybody from your floor into your apartment, and you need to put wet towels under the door, and do not move. We will come get you.
Oh, wow.
So we just sat there while the building was on fire and cried and cried and cried and cried and cried and cried and cried.
I can't.
And it turns out that another couple who lived on the 14th floor above us was facing West Side.
Okay, tunnel.
They're facing like the Meadowlands.
Yeah.
So they don't see all of the activity in the front. So they freaked out. They made it from the 14th floor.
Went down the stairs.
To the 5th floor in black smoke. And they collapsed right outside of the stairwell on the door.
Oh my gosh.
So there's a good chance that maybe they were there when we opened the door, but I didn't know.
Oh, so they
passed.
We
were like almost the last people evacuated because they had to remove those 2 bodies.
Oh,
and the gentleman, God rest his soul, like tried to break the window in the stairwell to get some air. Yeah. And, you know, obviously, when the fire's on the 4th floor, an explosion, that 5th floor smoke.
That's it.
Is just, it's worse. It's like it just gets worse.
Yeah.
So then, you know, we were told, and it was like, oh my God, and I see like the broken glass. I see her like chancletas there. And it was just, but this was my first interaction with a grief counselor. Right. Because there were so many children, as you know, that went to Lincoln, that lived in that school. There were so many kids from so many grades, and the Red Cross had set up, like across the street, they set up a grief counselor for all the school-age kids to come and talk about what they saw. And but my grandmother was friends with these 2 older women personally. Oh my gosh. I didn't know the Dominican couple. But I remember, like, you know, going to, you know, walking around the building during the holidays, and, you know, you my grandmother got her little friends, and but that was like my first real funeral.
Yeah.
You know, and I went there was 2 caskets, and it was mother and daughter, and it was just like, whoa, this is like very.
I don't even remember my grandfather's funeral. No. I don't remember. I do, but I don't, because I confuse it with his brother. Yeah. Which was my Uncle Eddie. Yeah. And they were like, I just remember them fighting over the Italian thing, the Irish thing. This is what they do. They fight over money. Yeah. Over the dead body.
Oh, I think everybody's. I
mean, it was, and then I'm just like, what's going on here? But like, I always confuse those memories. So it's funny that you say like this was your first funeral, because I really don't recollect. I don't even think I was there. I think I went to the church. I don't remember.
I was just like in shock the whole time.
Yeah.
I just like, I came out and I didn't even realize. I had came out and I saw Joanne.
Yes.
Joanne went down the hill.
Yes.
I saw Joanne, we hugged.
Yes.
And then like the news came and took a picture. I didn't realize. I was like, we were like on the first page of the news the next day.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
And I was like, did I have all that black around my nose? And they were like, yes. I didn't realize that I had like black all around my nostrils and from the smoke, because I was like running. I'm telling you, I just don't remember any. I just remember my mom pulling me back and me and my sister on the floor of the hallway, like, what now?
Yeah. Like, what do you do? Wow.
So that's I never had like a fear of like fire or anything after that. No. But what I did have was like a tremendous respect for first responders. Yeah. Because those firefighters individually took us down hand by hand. They gave us great instructions. All the paramedics were there. The Red Cross had set up across the street in the senior citizens
building. Shout out to North Hudson, because they are awesome.
Listen, for real.
They are awesome. They are like, I mean, and still to this day, they're still like just so efficient. Just, as much as they say that they got a cush job. You wouldn't be able to run up those stairs with all that uniform on. Listen, I actually have a picture, and I have to send it to you. They had the fire truck at when I was working at Lowe's. And I was like, "Oh, I love me a little firefighter. I love a man. I love a man in uniform." But it was like an older gentleman. He was like, "Here, put this on, doof." And I was like, "Can I have the axe too?" He goes, "Yeah." I go, "Let's play the part." I was like, "Come on, can you put the ladder up?" He was like, "No, we
He's
can't."
like, "Calm down."
He's like, "Calm down. Like, you're too excited."
It's so heavy, right?
It's so heavy.
Even like people coming home from work and trying to reunite with their families.
Was incredible.
You show up to a building on fire and you're like, "Where's my family?" Yeah. So even like reuniting, like who's at Red Cross, who's here, and then North Bergen High School had like, it was like a second fire station.
Yes.
They were all lined up.
Yes, it was. I remember that too.
But I think it was great for you to think of us to talk about our first instance with grief, because I think that every time you have to deal with death, every time you deal with death, you will sort of kind of revert back
to grief. To the first time.
To like how it was. It was like, are you in shock? Well, you got to deal with it. Well, you keep going.
What tools did I use the last time? Yeah. The coping skills. Yeah.
And with this time around, I was like, I need to find a grief counselor right away. Because it was that's another thing. It's like the couple times that I've dealt with death.
Right.
Is like, it's never somebody gets sick and dies.
Right.
It's a fire.
Traumatic.
It's a car accident.
Traumatic.
That was senior year, car accident coming from Wildwood. Rest in peace, Ricky. He passed away. And then this, it's like, it seems to be always something traumatic. It's like, and me and my mom said that. She's like, can someone just like get sick?
Yeah.
Instead of like all of a sudden like being pulled from us in that way.
Right. So to have that closure almost.
So it's a lot of like, every time I deal with like death, it's like some sort of shock. Yeah. And then trying to like snap out of it.
Yeah.
It's
But and I feel like there's just so many different versions of grief. So just to think about that right there, I mean, I can talk about my dog that, I don't really remember. I was 2 years old or a year old, whatever. But, if this episode definitely resonated with you, please find us on social media. We want to hear feedback. We want to know, what was your first death experience?
Yeah, we're going to tag you'll see all of our Instagram, TikTok, YouTube pages.
Spotify, Apple Music.
Well, you know, we're everywhere.
Yes.
We're everywhere. But, you know, all jokes aside, I know we laugh a lot and we try to, like, find the joy in grief. But please, you know, grief is not something that you have to do alone. I am only sitting here 4 months into this nightmare.
I applaud you.
Because, thank you. But it's because I have Jess, and I have a good support group, and I have great friends, and I have my church, and I have... No one should have to go through grief alone, and nobody has to, you know, perform for other people to just act like everything's okay. Yeah. You know, and if someone you think is maybe performing, send them this podcast and let them know that they're not alone, and they can just very quietly listen to what we're talking about and hopefully find some help and know that they're not alone.
Absolutely. And you can always reach out. Thank you for listening to episode 5.
Yes, thank you.
The Grieving Sisters. See you in the next episode.